Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GOGI Games Invitationals. This is Mick. I'm one of your hosts alongside Angry Man Joe Fu.
I'm never gonna leave this. This rap. This is a bad rap.
This is
I
a
have.
bad rap,
This is a
yeah.
bad rap. Come on, man. Angry Man Joe.
But we're here
Uncle
to
Joe.
explain what's happening in 2019. 2018
That's right.
Invitationals is underway. We are going to the group stages, but Joe and I are here to explain what are the changes from 2018 to 2019. We had some changes from 2017 to 2018, namely the slots and like how you can qualify. And there's even more changes in 2019. So let's get that underway.
Yeah, I mean, how myself, Ben, we put a lot of thought into. Now we've had 2 years of GOGI, so we've had 2 years to reflect on what has kind of worked and what hasn't worked. So we are trying to design something that will work best for the store and work best for the customers.
Yeah,
so
it's more inclusive.
Yeah.
I take a look at it. It's like, yeah, this is more inclusive. This is going to get, hopefully more players into the store.
Right.
And playing, and more importantly, playing the invitationals, right?
Right. And we wanted to give more people a chance to get to the invitational. So it's not so deterministic where you have to win a tournament to get in, or you have to grind an entire year. We're gonna try and give people an opportunity to get there, different ways, different means, and reward some amount of consistency. So I think like right off the top of the price structures, right? That's what we'll talk about. I think the price structure is not
Hasn't
gonna change.
changed,
Yeah, it's no change. I think we found that this structure kind of worked. And as of now, I think that it is. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Nobody's complaining about price structure yet. So
It's like, oh, I win $1,500, no problem.
No, we haven't heard that yet. So we're gonna stick with it. And the number of buys and like the invitations for the winners of GOGI 19, it's gonna be the same. Invitation to GOGI 20 for the champion, and invite to all SQs with 1 buys. No change.
Yeah.
And then like second, third,
second
fourth.
place. Actually, second place is slightly different, right? You were invited to all the SQs, but you didn't have to buy.
Oh right, yeah. So
Yeah,
we figured
then-
that like it was kind of like feel bad for the second place guy.
yeah.
Like it wasn't as clear that he made it to the finals, the grand finals of GOGI. So we wanted to reward that a little bit. So yeah, that's like changed well. Good pickup, Mick.
And new third and fourth place. Third and fourth place was not invited to any of the SQs. So third and fourth place now are invited to one of the SQs, with third place getting 1 buy, and third and fourth place both
getting
getting
1 buy,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think that this choice of SQ, we are gonna try and like. We are thinking very hard about how we are going to get players to the SQ of their choice, because we've run into situations this year and in previous years where you qualify for an SQ, like a modern SQ playing standard. And you
But
don't
I
have a
cannot
modern,
play.
Yeah, you can't play or something like that. Like we're going to try and be a little bit more flexible with the way that we get people into SQs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's price structure.
And then 5th and 6th place and 7th and 8th place also invited to the SQ as well. So basically, if you're in the top half in the group in this year, if you've done well enough, you will be invited to at least 1 SQ where you can earn like championship points. And
You could just go straight into qualification slot for the next year's invitation.
yeah, you never know, right?
Never know,
Just
yeah.
go in. Speaking of which, there will be 3 groups of invitations. The slots are divided into 3. Group 1 is the winner of this year's invitationals, and the 3 seasonal qualifier winners. Okay, so I think right off the bat, most of you will notice that 3. How come 3? Why not 4? Because
we're going to
we
talk
have
about that. And
Yeah.
it kind of is like a bit of a flip flop, because I remember when Mark changed it from 3 seasons to 4
4
seasons.
seasons.
And then now we're changing it back.
Back.
But I think that there was a good reason to do it. And we'll explain that later when we're talking about the timeline.
Yeah.
So Group
yeah,
2
then
is
group
where
2.
you'll probably see the next interesting thing.
This is like totally new, except for the
yeah.
highest total qualifying points.
Yeah, but Group 2 is going to be highlighted by the Format Masters.
Yes.
Yeah, so Format Masters is something that we've thought about to kind of also just get legacy involved here. We want to give our legacy players, growing community of legacy players, an avenue to get into the invitational, which honestly, like they could play like monthly legacy events. But if they don't play standard, or they don't play modern, they really didn't have an avenue to win, get QP.
And like to qualify for the invitationals at all, right?
Right.
And we'll talk about that later on And then Group 3 will be the 6 players with the highest CP total. And then 1 invitational last chance qualifier. And
This
then
is
1.
new as well.
Yeah, so the LCQ, we took away the LCQ this year, but we're bringing it back. I think makes a lot of sense.
I think it does, and I think that GOGI in general, GOGI weekend, especially this year in particular, GOGI weekend is high stakes. You know, there's a lot of things going on. You know, like yesterday was the team championships. Somebody was playing for like the last slot, and then so we want to keep the tension high for games. We want the games to matter.
Yeah.
So that's why we want this last chance qualifier back. We want to give people a shot to get back into the tournament. You know, you may have you may have done terribly the entire year. You know, and we were dreaming up this scenario where somebody played enough to qualify for every SQ, bomb every SQ,
and then suddenly there's like your last chance.
You're not on the higher CP total because the 6 players are higher. And honestly, we figured that you should at least have a shot to get into the Invitational. That's why the last chance qualifier is there.
And then this one's going to be interesting. I don't know how it's gonna.
I don't know
either.
We have an idea.
Player's choice.
The player's choice. I think that
there will be nominees.
There'll be nominees. I think in previous years, what we did was we had new player that was Sheik, right? 2 years ago.
2 years ago, was Sheik.
Sheik. Sorry. And that was based on Planeswalker points. And then we had national champion, but national champion is not going to be here anymore. And there was what other
highest
guest slots that
highest this year we have Kelvin Chu.
I think there was young player of the year also.
Under 21 Ilham Mulyawan, under 21 player.
Yes, and he's graduated obviously now. He's playing the full invitational. Doesn't need the crutch anymore. But so the player's choice essentially is a means for us to be able to select players who we think are deserving of a chance at the Invitational. And this nomination process will also be open to the players. And how we basically scoped it is that as long as you have qualifying points, 10 qualifying points and above, and this is going to be subject to change, what the threshold is. Currently, it's 10 qualifying points and above. You will be able to place, you'll be able to nominate, and you'll be able to vote. And then we will keep a constant poll on the player's choice going through the end of the season, and then we'll decide who gets the final slot in Invitational.
That'll be fun.
I think that's a little bit of fun and a little bit of randomness. Give us an opportunity to highlight some players that we think are deserving, and just get the community involved. Right.
All right. So those are the 16 slots that will be filling up the GOGI Games Invitationals for 2019. And here is how you can qualify by championship points. Okay, so first step is that you have to earn QPs by participating in events at GOGI Games. I think this is we've been through this, people. We've been through this.
And for those completely new to GOGI Games and GOGI, essentially by participating in any events at the store, you will qualify. You will get these qualifying points based on your results.
So any event, really any event.
Honestly, with the exception, I guess, some casual events. But Commander casual, we don't give QP for those. But generally speaking, any
sanctioned tournaments,
events, you're gonna get some QP.
And then you have to minimally hit 35 QPs in a season, and we'll talk about. We've only got 3 seasons, which is why the QP threshold has changed from 30 to 35. And you have to qualify in a you have to get 35 QPs in a season. You qualify for the seasonal qualifier and for that seasonal qualifier, right? And then you participate in that seasonal qualifier, you do well, or you place, you basically place. You just have to show up, you get some CPs, and that gives you the chance to go for the invitationals. If you win the seasonal qualifier, you automatically go to the championships. Or to the invitationals. Otherwise, you accrue championship points, and it's not enough for you to, or it can be enough for you, but even if you are first in the seasonal qualifier, you are seeded at the end of the day based on your championship points, right? So you need to make sure that you maintain relatively high number of championship points if you want to get that little advantage.
We will also be introducing some things in I think that we'll announce it probably midway through season 1 about how we are going to reward players who accrue more than the QP that they require or more than the CP they require.
Yep.
It's a bit of like a reward for the people who constantly support the store and they're here all the time. They're racking up those QPs and they're racking up those CPs. I think CPs is quite a given because essentially the more CPs you get, the higher chance that you get into tournament. Even if you do win an invitational, like mix it, CP does matter in the end.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is just reward those players who come very constantly. They rack up the QPs.
And reward good play. Like if you're doing consistently well, you
Yeah.
earn a lot of QPs. So
you find it really GOGI. I mean, like we've had these conversations like late into the night and many of the days. You're trying to thread a needle with GOGI. Essentially, you want to improve the level of competitive play in Singapore in general and the store in specific. But you also don't want it to be so cutthroat that we push away players who are not familiar with the competitive Magic scene and are interested to get in. So we are trying very, very hard to thread this needle.
Yeah. Okay, so then the player who accumulates the highest number of QP over the course of GOGI 19 will earn a slot in the Invitationals.
This year it's Mr. Brian Lim.
Yeah,
My
right.
horse in this event.
This is the hill that you're
very
dying.
well.
It's the hill that you're dying on.
Yeah.
And then the 6 players who accrue the most number of championship points, and that is reiterating that's how those are the points that you earn from the seasonal qualifier. That will earn you a slot in the Invitational. So 6 players from those.
Yep.
And then we also have the Format Masters, and here this one's cool.
Yeah, this is so as I mentioned earlier, it was basically to try and give our players who are very, very specific. They only play one format. They only play either Modern, or they only play Legacy, or they only play Standard. We have some of these people, right? And so we want to give these people an opportunity to be to get to the Invitational, because like traditionally, if we were to base it on previous year structures, if somebody only played one format, balance probability, this person's not going to get enough points to get into the qualifiers, not the seasonal qualifiers, and probably not the Invitational as a result of that. With the Format Masters, what we are trying to do is to give these people a chance. So essentially what we are doing is that on top of like the total amount of QP that you earn, so right, we mentioned in the last graphic that the highest QP earner in total QP for the year is going to get a slot into the Invitational. We are also going to be calculating or keeping track of format QP. Standard QP, Modern QP, Legacy QP. So in line with what we do on a week-to-week basis, right? We run a weekly event for most of these events, most of these formats, right? Modern, sometimes we run 2, right? Anytime you play in one of these events, you will earn format-specific QP. So the example that we have on the graphic, say for example, somebody played a Legacy and a Standard event over the course of a week, right?
Right.
In the Legacy, did very well, was awarded 4 QPs, got a 3-0. In Standard, 2-1, or was it 2-1? You get 2 QPs, right?
2-1, yeah.
Yeah, 2-1, 2 QPs. So not a bad week of Magic overall for player X. So the total number of QP this guy would get is 6.
Not bad.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be so specific. Not a guy this player would get.
Player X.
Yeah, player X.
X.
Politically correct. Yeah. So the player's total qualifying points for the week would be 6, but the Legacy QP would be 4, and the Standard QP would be 2. Right.
Yeah.
This would add up over the course of the season. Yep. So over the course of the season, at the end of the season, we will crown essentially the format masters. Right. So at the end of
3 seasons.
Yeah, at end of like GOGI 20. GOGI 19, sorry. Well, we're jumping 1 year.
Whoa.
I was thinking about GOGI 20 already. Yeah, at the end of the 3 seasons, what we will do is that the format master of each season, plus the best place, second place finisher in that format specific QP, will get together to play a playoff.
Okay.
So again, in the same vein, we want to give everybody a chance to get into the qualifiers at least. But the qualifiers need to be high stake.
Yeah.
So this is essentially what it's going to be. It's going to be a high stake, winner take it all, and each format master will generate 1 slot for the Invitational. So the winner of the playoff for Standard, Modern, and Legacy will get a slot in the Invitational.
Yeah. All the marbles, people.
All the
that's
marbles.
Like at the end of the year. That is really at the end of the year. So you really are putting it, high maximum stakes, because like there's no other way that these 4 people would want to have qualified for the Invitationals via the Format Masters, except for this way. So it's very, very high stakes.
And there's another like thought behind the format masters and why there's a playoff at the end instead of just giving the highest overall QP for each format that slot. And I think that the reason is that we don't want to discourage new players or people who come in like in the middle of the year from participating in any GOGI events, because like if you are like too far behind in the QP, like too far behind in the CP lead, right? It doesn't matter, because if you do really well in one format over the course of a season, you got a shot. You know, you're going to be able to get into you at least have an avenue to get into the Invitational.
Yep.
It's not just like, oh, because I started playing Magic in June, right, I have absolutely no chance of getting into the GOGI Invitational.
Yeah,
that isn't the case.
Exactly.
So we are trying to open up the other avenues, right, for players who join us in the middle of the year to still be able to make it into the Invitational without like just winning the SQ essentially.
I think one of the like more pertinent questions, like why no limited masters, right? Why no draft masters or sealed masters?
Yeah.
The thing about all these formats is that the tournament is open to as many people as possible. You know, so if 16 people showed up, cool. If 52 people showed up, cool.
Yeah,
you will earn X number of QPs, and that'll be it. Whereas draft and limited formats, like you can draft at any point of time, and sometimes, you know, if you don't meet 8 people for a draft or you don't meet at least 4 people for a sealed, then the event doesn't fire, which means that sort of automatically excludes a certain number of players. So we want to try to avoid that. Anyway, drafting's fun, so you just draft, but constructed.
Like Mika saying, it's something that we studied. It's something that we are looking into. It may be something that we do for GOGI 2020.
Right.
We're going to run some data. We're going to do some data like gathering this year with regard to our limited events, and we're going to figure out like how consistent it actually does fire.
Yeah.
But Mick is right. I mean, like we don't really want like 7 people to turn up and then none of them can get QP that day because
it's like,
one guy at work, something like that. I mean, this is not beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
This
has happened before.
It has happened. So we're a bit cautious about it, but something that we're looking into.
So Format Master is one of the biggest changes.
Yep, to GOGI 19.
All right. So for qualification, this is the last chance qualifier. Of course, one more guy can make it into the invitationals. You need at least 10 championship points.
Yep.
Or played in all 3
there's a rationale for this. Sorry, it looks a bit clunky, but there's a reason for it. And the reason is because that if you manage to qualify for all 3 SQs, but you bomb out and you get the bare minimum points, you get 9 championship points.
It's like, that
nice. Doesn't get you into the last chance qualifier. So the last chance qualifier, we set it at a 10 CP. Or you have managed to qualify for all 3 SQs.
Yes.
Then you qualify for a slot in the last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
Again, a caveat, there is not going to be... anybody who's already qualified for GOGI cannot play in the last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
So you must not have a slot in Invitational.
You can show up that day, no problem.
You can show up.
But you can't play.
Yeah.
You just have to sit down and like, no. And of course, the player's choice is a community nominated or player voted.
As I mentioned earlier,
you need at least 10 QPs, not CPs, qualification points to be nominated, to nominate and to vote.
Nominate and vote, that's right.
Yeah. So,
but I think that as long as you play in the store, you definitely, to some extent, we just don't want like anybody to have like a say, you know. So that you must be the community that plays in Grego games.
Right.
Right. And I think the people who play in Grego games should have a say.
Yeah. All right. So this is the schedule. This is one of the most important slides or most important graphics you're going to see today.
Yep.
There'll be monthlies. There are obviously going to be monthly tournaments.
Yep.
Our first seasonal qualifiers. All right. So seasonal qualifier 1 is on the 12th of May, 2019. All right. Seasonal qualifier 2 is on 25th of August 2019, and SQ3 is going to be on 8th of December, with the invitationals being in January of 2020. So you can see that there's a small gap, right? Each season is 100 days, 15 weeks.
14 and a half, 15 weeks, generally
105
speaking.
days,
it's quite precise. And I think that we scoped it this way. The rationale behind this was that we realized that in December, we didn't have the freedom to do like some cool events like Chaos Draft.
We used to do
We
Chaos
used to
Draft
do it,
every
right?
year, yeah.
But I think like it was a conflict because we always had to set a month aside to do like our monthly event,
Yeah.
and we had to get the legacy going and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So we were crunched for dates. So we realized that if we wanted December free, we needed to free up December from like GOGI related events.
Mhm.
And we kind of realized that, if we don't have December, we don't have January either, because January is usually when the invitational happens, right?
happens, yeah.
And if that's the case, we remove these 2 months. We have the remaining remaining 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait, 10 months. Sorry.
10 months, yeah.
Yeah. The 10 months
105
in a
days,
year,
yeah.
right? Yeah, and so we break that up into as even
Numbers that we get, yeah.
break and possible. And I think that the good thing about the way that we're structuring this, of course, we'll take feedback, but the SQ for every event is the last day of the season.
Yeah.
So you can accrue points until the SQ. There's not going to be a situation where the season ends after the SQ, or like there's spillover and all that kind of thing. My points, does it translate to next season, this season?
Yeah.
So we cut that by having a fixed end date for the SQs,
And a fixed start date, yeah.
and we have like basically locked in seasons.
Mhm.
Again, this is subject to I don't know if there's like a fire or something, and like the 25th of August
Hey,
becomes
Choi.
like World Alien Day or something,
yeah.
aliens touchdown or something, and we can't run the event. Then we'll do some adjustments, but generally speaking, we are fairly firm on the dates.
Yeah. So, mark that in your calendar. All right, let's see. And then we have all the events that that you can participate in. There are drafts that can win you up to 4 qualification points, right? There are also daily events, standard, modern, legacy. Standard is on Tuesday. Legacy is also on Tuesday.
now, yep.
Modern is on Wednesday, and you can also catch that on the stream, twitch.tv/GoGi and FNM, of course, as the name implies, Friday Night Magic, right? And of course, we will have our monthlies as well.
This is a change from this year. So what we've done is that we've unified all the events. All the entry fees is going to be, as you saw in the last slide, which is $10 entry fee, 5-3-1 based on 3 wins, 2 wins, and we found that this was just easier. The FNM difference in price didn't seem to make there didn't seem to be any discernible impact. So we're still going to give out the FNM promos, but we just unified the thing. So everybody
it's easy time. You
Just
come
so
to the
much
store,
easier,
you come to the store, you pay $10, you participate in the event,
Yeah.
right? And I think the payout is fairly reasonable.
Yeah, it's
And then
easier on my accounting.
it's also easier accounting. Then we have the monthly events, which is $20 entry fee. Has it always been $20? Yeah.
It was 15 for a while, and then like the first part of last year was 15, and then it became 20. So who really knows? But I think we just decided to fix it on 20.
Yeah, exactly. And for the first place, of course, will be immediate invite to the seasonal qualifiers, and you get 1 buy for the seasonal qualifiers. Second place also is like automatic number of qualifying points, right, for the seasonal qualifiers. And then third and fourth place, you get 20. If you're in the top 8, you get 15. So it's a fast way. Like the monthly events are very, very fast way for you to earn.
I realize it's a typo though. It's 35 qualifying points for first and second, not 30.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Okay.
Should have vetted my work.
35. Hey, Joe, come on. What's this, man?
What kind of quality is this?
So yeah, we'll make changes, but 35 qualification points, qualifying points, and these are all the events. So if you guys are interested, please do take part in the Grey Ogre Games invitationals for 2019. I think it will be an exciting year. I think it will be very, very interesting to watch. And we'll be back with the Grey Ogre Games invitationals for 2018.
Round
and
3?
now this is round 4.
Round
this
4.
is now
Alright,
the
we're done with
standard.
group stages. Right,
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Double
There
elimination.
are some interesting decks out there.
Yeah.
In any case, our website is currently down. It's undergoing a revision, and we're going to try and launch everything together. Once the website is up, which we anticipate to be after Chinese New Year, all this information that we talked about is going to be up there.
Yeah.
And if you have any other questions, feel free to approach our staff or send us a message on Facebook.
Yeah.
And we'd be happy to answer it.
All right, so for myself and Joe, we're signing off. Do stay tuned for some standard action.
Happening right now.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
In 20 seconds.